Hi all, and welcome to episode 4 of the Leading Safely podcast on this very chilly morning here in Brisbane. This week, we're going to roll things back a notch and take a look at leading by example, something that we all need to do in the health and safety space regardless of what our job title actually is. For me, leading by example means to guide others through your behaviour instead of just through your words. Your intention is to inspire others to copy your behaviour. Let me take you back to the last episode, where I told you about the mining manager who saw no relevance in speaking about the car accident which had happened at the entry to the mine site access road, as it did not involve one of our workers. What do you think his leading by example look like on a daily basis? The opposite to leading by example is to say one thing and do another. The saying, "do as I say, not as I do," may have worked in the past, but it has no place in today's world. I will share with you another example, and I did mention that unfortunately I have plenty when it comes to leading by example. I worked for a transport and logistics business who were subcontracted for haulage to a number of major players in the mining industry. The operators were tough, old school, mainly middle-aged and older gentlemen who hated change in the first instance, and then, on top of that, thought safety was a waste of time and money because only they know how to do their job. This was a tough gig, and my success within the leadership team was a mixed bag of lollies. There was executive leaders who were modern and dynamic and could see the vision for a better future for health and safety, and then lower down, at GM level, you had members of the team who agreed with the operator views and literally bullied anyone who thought to change the status quo. When this type of disjointedness occurs between the executives and lower level leaders, the effort becomes hard and might have to be the topic of another episode. But with my bright and bubbly personality, I started to chip away at the layers. I went for drives with the operators. I did their shifts, came in at all times of the day and night when it was freezing, all the way up to when it was 56-degree heat. I didn't sit in the truck for unloading. I got out, I helped untarp, and I had everyday conversations that mostly had nothing to do with safety in the first instance. When they saw me back at the depot, those operators started to say hello. On the second and third trips with the guys, I'd built enough rapport with them that they actually started to share little snippets of health and safety related information with me. A hazard here, an unreported incident there, and things really started to get some traction. I got the general gist that these gentlemen were overworked, underpaid, and basically did not feel appreciated. So I asked our depot manager if we could get all the guys to finish early one Friday afternoon, bring them back to the depot and put a barbecue on for them as a thank you. I would collate all of the safety data and informal funny stories I'd heard over the last few months and print up some certificates to be handed out. Some of them were serious for their safety conscientiousness, and some of them were funny. For example, an operator had stopped his truck alongside a major highway after passing a mother duck and some little ducklings about to cross the road. So we gave him the Duck Traffic Controller Award. The manager agreed, however, only after I volunteered to pay for the meat, drinks, etc. myself. That did not worry me in the slightest. For the sake of $150 to $200, I knew I would get much greater value from that afternoon. So the Friday came and everyone came back to the depot. I cooked the barbecue and I chat with the guys, and then we did the formal awards. It was such a great afternoon. Lots of laughter and lots of banter. After most of the operators had left, the depot manager came over to me and asked me how I think it all went. I was super happy and said that I thought everyone had a great time and we should definitely do it again. At this precise point in time, he was eating his sausage on bread. He takes a bite and then he says to me, "We certainly will not be doing this exercise again." I was in shock and I was extremely confused. He then went on to tell me that I had caused the company to lose $75,000 in downtime while the trucks were not operational. It felt like a punch to the stomach. I wanted to laugh and cry all at the same time, especially since he had said it to my face within earshot of the last few drivers, whilst he was chomping down on a sausage that I had paid for out of my own pocket. I was left speechless. That one simple statement had such a huge impact, not just on me, but on those few drivers who overheard it and then passed it on to other drivers, causing a shift in that momentum that I'd worked so hard to build. Leading by example is everything. There's an old saying about the difference between a manager and a leader. Managers do things right and leaders do the right things. It's best to be both, a manager and a leader. They're just different processes. As a leader, part of your job is to inspire the people around you to push themselves and in turn the company to greatness. To do this, you must show them the way by doing it yourself. Stop and think about the inspiring people who have changed the world with their examples. Consider what Mahatma Gandhi accomplished through his actions. He spent most of his life living what he preached to others. He was committed to non-violent resistance to protest injustice, and people followed in his footsteps. He led them and India to independence because his life proved by example that it could be done. Although Gandhi's situation is very different from yours, the principle is the same. When you lead by example, you create a picture of what's possible. People can look at you and say, well, if he can do it, I can do it. When you lead by example, you make it easy for others to follow you. As a leader, supervisor, manager, executive, HSE professional, whatever your role is, people are watching you and noticing everything you do, whether it's something you want them to emulate or not. Since people are watching and are being influenced by your behaviour, for better or worse, you have to ask yourself, what is the example you want to be setting? Do you want them to overhear you telling a supportive member of your team that they just cost the company $75,000 for hosting a safety rewards ceremony? Consider what might have happened if Gandhi had, even one time, been in a physical fight with his opposition. His important message of non-violent protest would probably have been much harder to believe after that. His followers would have looked at him with suspicion and distrust. The chances of them getting into physical arguments or committing acts of violence probably would have increased dramatically. So how do you lead by example? If you ask a co-worker, a team member, a colleague to do something, make sure you'd be willing to do it yourself. Don't implement any new process or procedure unless you are willing to also follow along. If you implement new rules for site, then follow those rules just as closely as you would expect everyone else to follow them. For example, if the new rule is that you have to wear a specific type of glove in a certain area on site, then you'll need to wear that specific type of glove in that certain area on site. If you don't, workers may lose respect for you, become angry, and start disobeying you. Look closely at your own behaviour. If you've been given a health and safety KPI or goal, or even a task, then complete it with enthusiasm and demonstrate its importance. If workers see that you too place importance on reporting hazards and incidents, and that if they do raise an issue, you follow through on them, they will be likely to replicate this behaviour themselves. If you make a promise to purchase or implement additional controls identified via a risk assessment, then follow through and implement and purchase those additional controls. If you're asked a question that you cannot answer, be real in your response. So many leaders think they need to be a certain way for workers to respect them, and that is most definitely not the case. Being real and communicating transparently on a given topic reinforces trust and often opens up more dialogue. Step in as a player as well as a coach. Don't ask workers to do something you wouldn't be willing to do yourself. Whether it's completing a task that may not have adequate controls in place, or a task that workers may not feel confident or competent to complete. Where possible, always commit to being available and present to dig in alongside the workers so they see and feel supported and empowered. Foster belonging and recognition as part of your organisation's health and safety culture. Advocate for all voices to be heard and not just yours. You will want to ensure that workers feel their purpose is aligned with the organisation's health and safety goals every day, so that workers can thrive in their roles and be recognised for their talents, as well as grow their impact on the health and safety culture for the organisation. In turn, this will create an environment where workers learn to support and advocate for others, which is incredibly important, especially in a work environment that may need an improvement in the health and safety space. Demonstrate an enjoyment, a liking, whatever you would like to call it, for health and safety in general. When you demonstrate your enjoyment and visibly share that excitement with workers, it creates an environment of curiosity, connection, and understanding for how their work and ideas propel the organisation forward. It also means there will be more laughter and joy and creativity in the work itself, which will always lead to better results. No one is working in a vacuum, and I think it's important to create work that workers can take pride in collectively. Practice leading by example to become a better leader. Like all leadership skills, learning to lead by example takes time and practice. It's worth the effort though. Building this skill can help you gain higher levels of engagement and trust with workers. Whether you're developing your management style, managing a group of direct reports, or leading without being a manager, leading by example shows workers that you value them. Now, before we wrap up this episode, I wanted to share with you some exciting news. I will be releasing bonus episodes in the upcoming weeks involving conversations with real-life effective safety leaders who have been where you are now, who've walked the walk and talked the talk. And just like Judge Judy, my disclaimer is, the people are real and the cases are real. So there are exciting times ahead for the Leading Safely podcast. Join me next time as we look at the importance of people in building a positive health and safety culture. Thanks for joining in. Until then, stay safe.